I was speaking with my sister last night, and we were discussing light versus dark, spirituality, adverse childhood experiences, as well as just challenges that we faced in our lives and in the workplace and relationships. When I was speaking with her, we were focused on some of the conversations that we have had with our parents and some of the things that they may have gone through. And we were doing this to reflect on how we were treated growing up. Now, one of the things that really stood out was when she said, there's some people that are of the dark and there's some people of the light. And when she had mentioned this, by the time she had mentioned this, I was convinced that she was correct. This is important to me because it's not like I haven't heard about people being light and people being dark before. When I've heard it before, it was always in the context of you have gods and you have demons. So in this world, it's not we're all gods, it's actually gods and demons. And those are, of course, human terms. So when you're thinking about it in a different sense, gods are just beings of light and demons are beings of the dark. And I remember reading on another person's YouTube in the comments where someone said that there are some demons or dark entities that are brought here, and the people of the light are the ones they should be aspiring to be. They're also very attracted to the light. Unfortunately, instead of aspiring to be like the light, some of them will destroy the light. And she said so much more, but that section was the only part that I got the signal was true, which is that there are dark entities here, there are light entities here, and the light entity is the bar they're supposed to be reaching, and they are attracted to that light. And it's funny because seeing that some weeks ago and being like, okay, well, I know this resonates as true, but I don't believe it because it just seems kind of wild and it's outside of my actual beliefs. I just put it on the side. I just notated it and said, okay, maybe I'll get more information in the future. And having that conversation with her, of course, something clicked. And then I thought of that situation. First off, when we were speaking, she had asked me, how is it that you turned out the way that you did despite everything that you have gone through? And I thought about it because when I watch true crime, because I love watching true crime or listening to the podcast, I don't do it as much anymore, but I've probably watched so many court cases, like well over several hundred. And many of them went through really bad childhoods, and many of them, their childhood was similar to mine. Some of them not even as bad as mine. And they went to jail for harming people that were innocent. Majority of them didn't even go after the person that harmed them. And thinking about it, I was just like, why is that the case that I didn't end up like them or ended up addicted to a bunch of drugs or ended up harming a bunch of people? Why am I doing the right thing? Why am I treating people with respect and dignity? Why do I have empathy? After all the things I've been through and all the mean people I have had the pleasure of being sabotaged by. Why did I work so hard to try and help others and try to uplift those around me, working in local politics and advocating for a better workplace? And why did I do all that when many of these people, not only did they not care, but then they defamed me behind my back? So why would I? Based on everything that I've been through, shouldn't be in any way, shape, or form the way that I am. And I think her asking me this question made me sit down and think, and it made me realize that maybe she was right. And I didn't want to believe that that is the case, that there are people that are of the light and there are people of the dark. The reason why is because I believed in nurture, not nature. And I did consider that, yes, nature has something to do with it. There are certain genetics that are passed on. We have different personality traits, and there's some temperaments that you already see in the babies. But I felt like most of everything had to do with the parents and how we were raised and the community you're raised in. What is your culture like? Things of that nature. And I put a lot of emphasis on the environment, which even now I still do. But if I were to look into this new information, then that would explain why some people, no matter what, end up the way that they are. I didn't believe, nor did I want to believe, that kids just came out the womb evil like some parents would say, because I know what it's like being raised by parents that are wicked and harsh and abusive. And I know some will never admit what they have done to their children growing up because they want to put on this facade of being better than who they really are. If we were to believe that there are dark souls and there are light souls, that means some of these children are going to be automatically much darker and more evil. And that seems like a very horrible thing to even attribute to a child or a baby. But if that's the case, then they're supposed to be raised in a family where they can, I guess, be surrounded by light beings who can show them what they're supposed to aspire to be. And maybe they have a difficult time doing that. Maybe they have to live several lives before they can. Maybe they have to go through some things and review it and come back. Maybe the reality of this is that it's not a school necessarily for everyone here. And I know it's not, because when I had passed, I was told that I was on a mission. So I know it wasn't a school for me. And I know that I have lived many, many lives. So I know it's definitely not anything that I'm learning. So I'm beginning to think that maybe the reality is that some people are here to be the light that the dark is supposed to aspire to be or transform to. And they are supposed to be following us, looking at us, seeing an actual standard. And the reason why they have certain moral codes and rules is so that everyone understands that the moral code is to be honest, to be good, to be humble, to not steal, to not covet what someone else has. In other words, these are the actual standards that everyone is supposed to be abiding by. And so when you have people that are abiding by that, you're supposed to look at them as inspiration and say, oh my gosh, they're doing it, I can do it too, as opposed to trying to destroy them. And I think the biggest issue is, unfortunately, that they aren't doing that. That instead of people looking at the light as inspiration and aspiring to be better, they're instead falling deep into darkness. And maybe even some of the people of the light might even fall into temptation and darkness as well. Maybe this whole entire time the plot has been incorrect. That we are here to learn, when in reality some are here to learn and some are here to guide. And they have to do the right thing. If not, then maybe they keep repeating over and over again. Because if you think about it, if you're a dark entity, if you're one that chooses to do harm, but you want to reform, you want to change for whatever reason, then how would you be able to do this if that's not what your core being is? How would you be able to measure if there's true change if you can manipulate and be deceitful? It makes sense that we would have to lose our memories in order to live this life as authentically as possible. And if you're truly a good being, then that means that with everything that you have went through, then how you were able to respond despite the adversities can determine if you're truly reformed, if you're truly a good being or not.